Okay, let's begin with a few words of auspiciousness to remind ourselves what we are gathering here today. Karuneshwari, please share some blessings with us. You are indeed the blessed one. So if you have received blessings, you can bless others. That's how it works.
Oh, sorry, that took a minute. I'm on my phone. I didn't know how to unmute. Okay, caught on the spot. I'm really blessed to be here with everyone tonight.
Don't move the phone. Don't move the
Praying
phone,
that
please,
we
because
can.
it makes a lot of noise.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll just blessed to be with all of you this evening and praying for more blessings to come through all of this association with each other and through the dialogue, which is always uplifting. And yeah, may all of our guides and teachers. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Karuneshwari. And welcome. Welcome you all to our satsang. Hopefully a space that feels sacred, crafted with intention and presence for each of us to find belonging, purpose, identity, these three crucial ingredients that sometimes we lose sight of. So we're always in the search of purpose, belonging, and identity. So hopefully we can craft a stronger and deeper vessel for all of us to dive deep into these necessary ingredients of life. So we invite each of you, whomever may have anything to share today, be the question, a topic you may like to explore more in detail, whatever is there to be shareable. You can raise your digital hand, as three of you have already done. So we will start there, and if there's anything else, we'll be continuing. So we'll start with Abhinandana from India, I assume. So you're welcome to unmute yourself and bring your offering. Welcome.
Hello, Maharaj. I just want to know if you can hear me because my network is a little patchy.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just switching off my camera because I can't hear you. Maharaj, so I have been having this question for a while now, and I wanted to ask it, but then I couldn't because I think I judge myself for having it. But so I have been reflecting on how my relationship with God has been evolving, as in initially it was just um, going to the prayer room and asking for things, and then it was coming to know that God is love through a Christian teacher of mine, and there were periods where the idea of God loves each one of us felt close, felt something like that was the thing that drove me. But then there were periods where I couldn't, I felt far from that idea. And like like for a long time, what happened recently was that idea became very abstract. And a newer dimension that I found to get close to it was relationships. To experience love through relationships, both receiving and giving. But then um, a difficulty I face is when I experience a lot of love through relationships, then it becomes um, uh, it becomes like there is a fear of losing it, or there is. I mean, it's difficult to comprehend that humans have limitations and whatever flows through them is from the divine. And also, when I am in, so then I go in prayer and then I try to sit with, okay, God loves me unconditionally. But then there's these questions that come up. How do I know that? I just have thoughts coming up, but I try to sit, but then it feels like, is it all real? Or it's been for quite some time, but is the way to just sit with it and just let the thoughts come, but just sit with that there is a divine who loves each one of us unconditionally, and there is a potential for a beautiful relationship to bloom.
So it's not clear to me if there's which is the question there. Sorry.
That how do you deal with things being abstract? The that unconditional love. I'm sorry, I couldn't. Did I not?
I don't think if the audio is also getting a little interrupted as well. But I think I understood your question. You're asking how to, I mean, we hear about God's unconditional love to us, but that somehow can be an abstract idea. And how can we make that abstract idea a concrete reality? Something like that?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I will say you yourself mentioned that in your question through relationships. Many times for some people, some of us may not have a concrete experience of God's unconditional love for whatever reason, which of course, it doesn't mean that there's no unconditional love from God. It's just like there's something getting in the way of that experience, not to feel guilty in a toxic way, but also to do our homework of what's getting in the way of that. Am I willing to be loved unconditionally? Am I willing to be seen unconditionally? Am I willing to accept that I'm receiving something I can never deserve? Because there has to be a willingness, a price to pay. As I always like to say, costless, unconditional love, another name is costless grace, costless mercy. But costless doesn't mean priceless, right? There's a price to pay for us, not to receive it, but a price for us to realize that's being given to us, something like that, which is again acknowledging this is free, this undeservable. It's a free gift, and I need to work on myself on those things that can become an obstacle from me receiving unconditional love, from me accepting that I'm being seen and loved, and so on and so forth. Because many times, some of the main reasons we don't experience unconditional love is because still we have a very ingrained idea that we do not deserve that. And that in itself is a whole problem, because again, it's not about deserving or not deserving. But somehow, some of us at least, we may be trapped into this transactional circle, deserving circle, and having a very poor self-image. So when it comes to the highest type of love, which flows from above, which is like spontaneous grace, we may feel like, no, that's too much for me. Who am I to receive that? Blah, blah, blah. But again, the whole thing is that the currency in the market, there's no currency in the market in one sense in terms of earning or deserving that. So we have to try to understand that that's being given no matter what, no matter how virtuous we are, how non-virtuous we are, it's unconditional. So it's difficult we need to adopt a different frame of mind for us to relate to this principle. That's an important thing, because unless we learn to reconfigure our thinking to interact with unconditional love, we just try to interact with unconditional love in in the same cause and effect way we used to deal with in every other market in life. And therefore we'll feel I'm not experiencing that, because still I'm carrying some assumptions about what do I have to do or be to have that love, to experience that love. So still there may be, and I'm talking in general, of course, some earning, deserving, transactional mentality there. That's on one side, and on the other side, again, in your question, you had the answer speaking about relationships. For some people, to speak about God's unconditional love may feel abstract. To speak about God may feel abstract. So as many times we say, okay, for some people, God does not exist. They have not seen God, experienced God. But if they meet someone who loves God, who has love of God, that's more difficult to deny. If you are able to interact with the lover of the divine, that's way more concrete, at least for some people. So in the same way, we can apply the same idea to unconditional love, because God is unconditional love, and a lover of the divine, a lover of that love, will embody such a love in a very tangible way for us. So if it's difficult for me to experience God's unconditional love because of some of the things maybe get in the way that I just referred to, still we can also resort to the lovers of God, those who embody unconditional, those who are trying to relate to us in an unconditional manner, and somehow are embodying something that some otherwise will be abstract for us. They are saying, oh, this is God's unconditional love passing through that particular person. So that then becomes tangible. The abstract becomes tangible. But still we need to work on ourselves, because you gave the example, for example, right? In a relationship, you may be receiving some level or degree of unconditional love, and then comes this fear of, oh, what if I lose it? Or maybe some other things, which again, now you're having an experience of unconditional love. And I'm not talking about you only, because you are not alone in this. We may be having that now finally clear, concrete experience of unconditional love beyond the abstract idea of God loving me, which I find difficult to experience in one way or another. Okay, fine. We are now having a more embodied, like, what's this word? Embodied example of that in the form of a person, a human being, or whomever, whatever species. But then comes the fear of what if I may be losing, and that fear, if I pay too much attention to that, gets in the way of the experience of unconditional love. So still we find the same point, no matter if it's God's unconditional love, a Vaishnav's unconditional love, someone else's unconditional love, still we may have things in our own system that tend to disbelieve it, to fear it, to be too much concerned, whatever may happen. And that we need to work on ourselves. Because again, that's a very clear example. Even when I'm having an experience of that to some degree, still I'm noticing some patterns that tend to get in the way of it. So that doesn't mean that the unconditional love I'm receiving is not powerful enough to do away with my fear of losing unconditional love. It means that probably the unconditional love that I'm receiving helped to shed light on that thing that gets triggered when I receive unconditional love, and I need to work on that. No, I cannot expect the other person's unconditional love to do all the work for me. So yeah, many times when we get close to love in one form or another, many times that sheds light on things that we need to see, and that may get in the way of, to some degree or another, of us receiving that love, of us experiencing that love, and then of us extending that love. So many times maybe fear, I may be losing it, maybe disbelief, this is too good to be true, maybe earning mentality, I do not deserve this, I'm embarrassed to accept that, if they will know who I am, this will not be happening. Who knows? There's an endless parade of options that can get in the way of us properly experiencing unconditional love. So it's not the fault of unconditional love that is not powerful enough to do away with all of that. It's just that I need to do my homework and craft the vessel, craft the Kripa Patra, right? The heart as a mercy vessel, no? To properly receive and honor that which is already coming. And for each one of us, the homework may be slightly different in that regard, but I would say we all have some homework to do. I mean, unconditional love, at least in principle, how Shastra declares, how all the mystical traditions declare, how all the enlightened saints declare, is there already, fully available. So I think we should take that, even if we lack certain experiences, that we should take that a little seriously. Even if we would like to exercise some skepticism and healthy doubting, is that true? Are all these religious people delusional? Are all these mystical texts missing the mark altogether at the same time for some reason? Probably not. Probably if this is coming cross-culturally beyond time, place, and circumstance, and there is so much common intuition through sister tradition, through sages and saints in this reality, there may be some truth in it. And until and unless I've done my homework fully, who am I to deny that's a fact, right? Who am I to fully put that into doubt if I'm not doing myself all that I need to do for me to prove if that's true or not? And again, big part of the homework, it's not only, okay, I will put me in front of unconditional love, because in one sense, unconditional love is everywhere, because God is everywhere, and God is love, God is unconditional love. But also do my part. Again, I may be in front of the purest embodiment of unconditional love on planet Earth, and whatever that may be. Still, I may get triggered if I don't have certain things fully healed or solved within me. So it's important that we work on that we can acknowledge what's going on in us, what's been triggered in us, how to work on that, from where that may be coming. Not blame unconditional love. Oh, now I'm afraid of losing unconditional love. It's the fault of unconditional love that now I'm afraid. No, of course not. No, some insecurities we may have, assumptions, again, many construct. Today I was reading something to that effect, that, I mean, we have said it many times. A big part of the learning is learning. Big part of constructing, let's say, a bhakti project is deconstructing. We'll get with that project. Big part of what teacher will teach is not so much about giving you new information, things that may challenge your current beliefs, and invite you to deconstruct, to unlearn, to work the things that get in the way. Many times that's the main experience. What's getting in the way of me in this experience? Again, not from a place of neurosis nor toxic guilt, but from a place of deep owning your own case and becoming responsible. So that's our daily work. I mean, I'm not giving, there's no magical formula that you do something and it's already there. It's our daily job, our daily business to work on what may be getting in the way today, so I can fully experience as much as I can what I know is there. Is here, at every moment. But due to omniscience, I may not be grasped what is present. So it's always, every day going back to that, and the whole journey gets more and more refined. As you yourself mentioned, you have been experiencing some progress in your journey in conceiving God and things like that. So there is a refining of the journey. But still the question remains. What may be getting in the way today for me to have the experience, a new experience that is waiting for me today? If I dealt properly with my obstacles on yesterday, great. But today there is something new that I need to see, to have a more intimate approach to reality. Yeah. I don't know if that helps. I don't know if I understood the question correctly.
Oh, Maharaj, it was very beautiful. And the last thing that you said, going back to it every day, I think that is very nice. And also, one more line that you mentioned about recently, a person was asking me, what do you like? What is more inspiring? And of course, I've been trying to expand my limits on reading, on hearing, but for me, it is like sitting with someone eye to eye and like hearing their experience of love and God. That just touches me so much. And you mentioned that sometimes that can be more concrete. So yes, it was very, very, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, of course, when we can receive something that we know it's given without an ulterior motive, without separate agenda, where we can do that, give that to others to some degree, as much as we can do it. In one sense, we could say that's God. I mean, to experience that, that means to experience the divine, because the divine is made of that stuff, so to say, of an unconditional giving and receiving, without selfish motive, without separate agenda, with the interest of the well-being for the person that we are offering, whatever we are offering ourselves. So that's a gradual way of getting closer and closer to the essence of God, who is unconditional love. So yeah, thank you for the invitation to reflect, and of course this never-ending topic. So I've so far 2 more raised hands, and of course if there's some others, you're invited to do so. But before that, I'll invite you for a moment to our breakout rooms. So hopefully we can have some breakthrough as well, some realizations, some insights and deep sharing. So I will be opening the rooms now, and let me see where they are first, okay? And you are more than invited to go there. So there they are. I'll see you in a few moments. And those who cannot go, of course, take your time for some personal deep introspection. Welcome, you all. Thank you. Welcome back. And hoping you had some nice reflections among yourself, within yourself as well. And we will proceed to the next sharing in the original order that the digital hands were raised. Next, we'll invite Kanupriya from Switzerland, Scotland, and then we have Silpa Karini. And if anyone else has something else, of course, feel free to raise your hand and we'll add you to the list. But meanwhile, we welcome Kanupriya.
Hare Krishna. Yes, I would like to ask a question actually that was inspired by today's Chita Dali festival. So when Raghunath Das went to see Nityananda Prabhu and he did hide in the background, so Nityananda said, come closer, and then, however, he put his feet on his head. Long story short, so Raghunath Das Goswami got the mercy of Nityananda before he could attain Mahaprabhu. And I do know from a philosophical understanding, Nityananda is Guru Tattva, so we have to surrender to Guru and get the mercy of the Vaishnavas to be able to attain Mahaprabhu or then later Radha Krishna. And my question came, if Nityananda is first before Mahaprabhu and Mahaprabhu is then even second before being able to enter Radha Krishna Leela, but all of them are Krishna himself or just an expansion, so Nityananda is Balaram. So it feels like we have to attain the mercy of God on several levels, which I do not philosophically totally understand, and I would like to hear your thoughts about this philosophical topic.
Okay. Thank you, Kanapriyaji. Here in the back in La Verna, they're having a race car today. Very interesting dynamics for the place of St. Francis Stigmata. So at any moment, I may need to wake up for a moment and close the windows because it's getting quite noisy, at least for me. But meanwhile, yeah, today, first of all, we are celebrating what's known as Chida Dahi Mahotsav, which is a festival of particular type of, like, how to say in English, pasteurized, that Nityananda Prabhu basically ordered Raghunath Das Goswami to organize as a quote-unquote chastisement, sometimes called Danda Mahotsav, or the Great Festival Mahotsav, or Danda, which means chastisement, in a loving context, again, in which Raghunath Das Goswami had been trying to get some personal connection with Mahaprabhu, and somehow eventually he happens to meet Nityananda Prabhu, and Nityananda Prabhu calls Raghunath Das Goswami kind of in a joking mood, like, you're a thief, you were trying to skip me, go directly to Mahaprabhu, now I'll chastise you, you have to do this festival, and invite all the Vaishnavas, so on and so forth. So yeah, in that connection comes your question, in which it seems almost obvious, and not only because of this celebration, but because of many other statements throughout. 1 second, cars are coming. Because of some other sections along the tradition, this emphasis on Nityananda Prabhu in order to get the grace of Mahaprabhu. And on top of that, sometimes we may hear, okay, in order to get to Radha Krishna, you have to go through Mahaprabhu. So it seems to be like an endless parade of agencies, divine agencies we need to go through. And maybe one may ask, well, why not to go? Why not to go straight just to whatever I want to go, or whatever, no? And of course, you can make even things more complicated, because then you will find verses about, if you want to obtain the grace of Nityananda, you have to surrender to Gadadhar, and if you want to obtain the grace of Gadadhar, you have to surrender to Nityananda, and so on and so forth. Which, of course, from a general point, it means we should not like downplay any phase of the divine. That's a general, but there are many lessons to extract here philosophically, which is mostly your question, your concern. How to read all this philosophically? Well, first of all, and I go in a minute to the apparent sequence, but overall we find many of these statements about one particular phase of the divine or the other, and the teaching there's do not disrespect any of them in the name of this my favorite one, so to say, in pursuing one particular relationship with the face of the absolute. Let's be careful not to insult, downplay other faces or the faith of other people who are attracted to those faiths, because that's a foundational principle of Vaishnavism, and humility and respect and honoring the divine and faith in whatever form it comes. So that, like, foundation to begin with. Then, as you properly mentioned, going to the particular example you gave, of course, Nityananda Prabhu represents Guru Tattva. So I will say in this particular case, that's the main idea. The main idea is don't try to approach God without approaching a guru, but we have to understand that in a way that is also healthy, you know? Because sometimes we may just hear like, you have to surrender to a guru. So it sounds more like an obligatory mandate that we may not even understand why, but it's kind of like a formula. If you do that, you get the other thing. So it may even feel like, okay, I surrender to the guru because that's the only way I can get what I actually want. So that's not the most loving way to relate to a guru, right? Like, imagine I will be telling to a guru, well, actually I'm surrendering to you because these guys are telling me I have to do that if I want to obtain Krishna or whatever, Radha Krishna. So that's why I'm doing that. So that's not very loving. So the ideal understanding, as we were talking before in my sharing to Abhinandana, is these personalities we call guru, it doesn't necessarily limit to one person, but they are embodiments of love. And if we say, well, but I want Radha Krishna. Yeah, but ideally we shouldn't want Radha Krishna. We should want love for Radha Krishna, right? So when we hear you have to surrender to the guru, the idea basically is you have to surrender to those who embody the love that you want to become in relationship to Radha Krishna. Basically, that's the idea. Like, try to be coherent, and if you want to approach the divine, to love the divine, probably you will need to learn to love, and it's important to get to know some of those lovers. So Nityananda Prabhu, going back to your question, Nityananda Prabhu is the embodiment of Guru Tattva, the embodiment of those who embody love for God. And Raghunath Das Goswami, before meeting with Nityananda, he had been trying to get personal association with Mahaprabhu. Again, it's no fault of Raghunath Das Goswami. He's Raghunath Das Goswami. This is something that somehow plays out the teaching for us to derive. The main philosophical principle to extract here, like, I don't know, when Mahaprabhu is cleaning the Gundicha temple, that's clearly, they did it, I'm not denying that, historically cleaned the temple, but the main symbol there is anartha-nivritti, right? The cleansing of the temple, of the heart, and so on and so forth. So in this case, the clear philosophical point is Raghunath Das Goswami somehow representing us trying to get personal instructions and relationship with God without going through the agency of Guru, who embodies love of God. So the whole idea is we want to approach God for the right reasons. And ultimately for us, the very most right reasons is offering ourselves to love. So that's why Nityananda Prabhu is kind of emphasized in terms of get the grace of Nityananda Prabhu. Not limited to Nityananda Prabhu, but get the grace of the department of Guru Tattva in all its forms. So when you approach Mahaprabhu, let's continue with Mahaprabhu. We are getting to Radha and Krishna more. You are approaching the sweet absolute, the sweet golden absolute for the right reasons. Now, of course, there is this other layer to the cake, which is, well, but then we hear that we need to approach Mahaprabhu so we can get his grace and then enter Vrindavan and serve Radha and Krishna. In this particular case, there are many things to say, and I will reply yes and no to that point. And what do I mean by that? I mean that unto itself, Gaur Lila is an eternal goal in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And many acharyas have said that some devotees will have a special affinity to serve Mahaprabhu and Gaur Gadadhar, which will be Radha Krishna, in Gaur Lila, and that may be their main, they may be their main Ishtadev. So they may not see Gaur Lila, Mahaprabhu, Gaur Gadadhar as a means to something else, but as Radha and Krishna appearing in that most wonderful form they want to adore forever. Because, and you find verses to that effect. You find verses in both directions. There is this famous verse by Prabodhananda Saraswati, who says in Yatayata Gaura Padara Vinna Vindita Bhaktim Krita Punya Rasi Tat Sarpati Hridya Kasmat Radha Padambujas Sudamburasi. The more one immerses oneself in the service of the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Dev, the more one will emerge in the service of the lotus feet of Sri Radha. So that verse seems to indicate Gaur Lila is taking you to Krishna Lila. Gaur Lila the means, Krishna Lila the goal. Navadvip the bridge, Vrindavan the destiny, whatever. And for some it may be that way, for some that may be their affinity. And in that sense we find also the emphasis on Gaur Lila, because in Gaur Lila all the Braja Lila appears as sadhakas. All of the retinue, God himself plus his associate, their associate, appear as practitioners. So that may be a very relatable Lila for us, because we are practitioners. So before trying to jump to the Siddha state, to the perfected state in our particular identity, in Vrindavan in this case, if one has that affinity, one is already a practitioner in the context of Mahaprabhu Sankirtan Lila. So taking Gaur Lila as a point of reference may be way more relatable for who we are, where we are now. And because of that, one could say that's emphasized after Nityananda comes Mahaprabhu in that context, in order to eventually get Radha Krishna in Vrindavan. That's one way of saying it. But again, for those who have an affinity to Gaur Lila, to serve Mahaprabhu and Gaur Gadadhar or Gaur Nityananda in a particular way, there are verses that say the opposite, actually. Opposite, a complementary polarity. I just quoted the verse that say, the more you serve Mahaprabhu, the more you end up serving Radha in Vrindavan. But then it's another verse composed by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya who says, the more you serve the feet of Sri Radha, you find yourself serving Mahaprabhu. And again, we should be careful not to be dualistic here, right? Not creating like a two-party conflict. No, Gaur Lila, Krishna Lila, Vrindavan, it's the same Lila. It's the same Lila in different petals of the same lotus, right? So different emotional expressions of the same department. But I'm saying in particularly this, not necessarily in the case, I made the case regarding Nityananda in relationship to Mahaprabhu, and we can make a case in relation to Mahaprabhu in connection to Radha Krishna, as I just explained, why Gaur Lila can be seen as a doorway, a relatable doorway for most of us. But also, again, one can, as I always like to explain, the deeper you go, that's the paradox, the deeper you go into Gaur Lila, if you see what Gaur Lila is about, if you hear about the Gaur Astakaliya Lila, the eternal day of Mahaprabhu, he's relishing Radha Krishna's Leelas in his inner core. So the deeper you go in Gaur Lila, you find yourself in Krishna Lila. But then the deeper you go in Krishna Lila, you find yourself in Gaur Lila. Because like the zenith of the Bhagavatam, for example, the Rasa Lila, where Krishna, Sri Radha, and the gopis are celebrating existence through dance and song. And at one point, as we know, Krishna disappears, as the Bhagavatam narrates. Gopis look for him. He goes with Radha. He lifts Radha for different reasons. The gopis join Radha, sing Gopi Gita. Krishna is hidden behind a tamal tree, witnessing the heart of Radha blossoming in love in separation. He returns among the gopis and he says, Naparayam nirabadya sanjuyam sasadu kritam vibudaya sapiva samavajan durjaragiha shrinkala sambrishyadatva pratyatu sadhana. I cannot repay back your love, even in a lifetime of Brahma, even if I try, but I will try. And I will try once in a day of Brahma, will come as a sadhu, as a sannyasi. That's Mahaprabhu coming, I will try to repay back your love. So my point is, at the zenith of Krishna Lila, Radha Krishna Lila, Krishna is witnessing the love of Radha to such a degree that he feels this desire of, oh, I want to taste that, I want to know that, I want to honor that. And that's Gaur Lila. So the zenith of Krishna Lila blooms into Gaur Lila. But then you get to Gaur Lila, you go to the zenith of Gaur Lila, and you find again into a new dimension of Krishna Lila. And then the new dimension, the zenith of that new dimension blossoms into a yet newer dimension of depth, into a new version of Gaur, and so on and so forth, right? So that's an interesting point to consider in connection to this, to the connection to the apparent hierarchy between, I will say, mostly Mahaprabhu and Radha Krishna. So anyhow, I threw a few bunch of points over there. I don't know if that helps. Karnapriya, you let me know if there is anything else you would like to share. But again, like the idea is not to overwhelm the worshipper, like, okay, I need to go first through this agency and then through this agency to get the grace of this and get the grace of that. So I have all my, like if you're going to a customs house to enter a country and you need like the stamp by this department, then this needs department. Okay, now you finally are. It's not in that spirit, but hopefully it's more natural and organic as it sounds to me, as I've tried to explain now. But you tell me.
Thank you very much. It helped a lot. I have a tendency to see or understand everything either in black or white, or maybe just simple three-dimensional, so one step after another. And your explanation helped me once more to really see it much more complex. And is it intertangled in English? So everything is connected, but much more complicated and bigger. And I need really to learn to try open up the way of thinking. Otherwise, I always get stuck with how is this possible? How is that? Cannot be. And that helped me a lot. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And of course, I didn't enter into the details of some devotees who have some affinity, for example, for Sakya Bhav. They will be very inclined toward Nityananda always. No, it's not just Nityananda's Guru Tattva, and then we go to Mahaprabhu and stay with Mahaprabhu, Radha and Krishna. Some of them, Nityananda is in Gaur Lila will be like a main companion and object of worship, or Balaram and Vrinda. So again, there's a lot of nuance and depends on each one's bhakti samskars and inclination. Yeah. Thank you. Good question. Thank you. Okay, well, I'll skip this one breakout room, as I always skip one. And we have two more raised hands so far, so I'd like to honor both of them. First, we'll go to Silpa Karini and then eventually to Elijah. So Silpa Karini, you can unmute yourself and you're welcome.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Maybe it's a little bit also what Kanupriya said, like with the guru, and for me, I found it really difficult to find devotee association, it like to find the right devotees, or it sounds a little bit strange, but yeah, to feel comfortable. Or when I was younger, you could go, like I was with ISKCON, and you just go to every temple, and that's fine, right? And you just be there, and there are devotees. But nowadays, maybe it's because of my age or so, it's not like that anymore. It's not like you're more picky, I would say, and think, no, I don't do that. And then I think, yeah, and then I'm ending up alone. But you need like devotees or guru to find Krishna, or to be with Krishna or whatever. And yeah, I don't know. And then I think maybe it's just my pickiness, or I don't know. Maybe it's not normal.
So is that a question? You want me to comment on that?
Just maybe a comment.
You want me to comment on that? You may just want to express that, and you want me to not say anything. Everything is allowed, no problem.
No. I just, what do you think about that? Or it's, yeah. Or it's, yeah.
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you for sharing that. And as usual, we will say, and that's not unusual that someone may experience that. I tend to be careful not to fall into a blaming mentality, like trying to blame someone else because of the situation I found myself in, whatever may be the situation. Because if not, we can live our whole life kind of in a resentful way, ungrateful way, fatalistic way, victim-like way, which when I'm not denying there may have been difficult situations, even abuse stuff happening in our lives, but also still we have a choice, right? And we have to be, as much as we can, resourceful and creative to find, in this case, Sangha, to find companions. And there may come from different places in different ways, in ways we were not expecting also, right? Because in the beginning, we may have a more idealized idea, or more, if you will, romanticized idea of how things are meant to happen, how things are supposed to unfold. Okay, I got initiated into this temple. There's some people living in the temple, in the nearby community. Okay, that's my community. I will live together in eternity till Golok Vrindavan. And after a few months, someone is leaving the community, some problem comes, someone else comes, some other leaves, one leaves, temple is closed, some guru is leaving the service, whatever. I mean, I'm being a little fatalistic here, but sometimes those things happen. And we may start to realize, well, maybe I had a little bit, how to say, a very simplistic idea, and I'm not talking about you, I'm talking in general, we generally begin with simplistic ideas about everything. And it's fine. That's how one begins the journey, right? Like in the beginning, we think more simplistically, then we get more nuanced and complex and learn to integrate and get nourished by complexity in our journey. And we understand eventually that our Sangha or our tribe of our people are not necessarily limited to one institution, to being disciples of the same guru, to being in this particular line, in this particular tradition. And I may end up, that's at least my experience and perspective, having very close brothers and sisters who may be coming from anywhere and everywhere. And you allow yourself to be surprised by that. And you have sincere longing for that. No, of course, it's not just passively waiting for my magical, perfect community to manifest around me, but also making our own participation in the whole thing by longing for that. No? There's okay. They have some nice church nearby, and now it's 8 p.m. here, so they are playing the bells. They're making a melody with the bells. That's nice. Can you hear it now? Okay, it's a song, a Christian song, anyhow. There's this verse composed by Rupa Goswami, Krishna-bhakti rasa bhavitam ati kriyatam yadi kuto pilavyate. Kriyatam yadi kuto pilavyate. Tatra laulyam apye kalam molyam janma kotistu krital nalabhyate. So he's saying, the famous verse that speaks for the qualification to tread the path of passionate love, raga marg, which is laulyam or longing or greed, we will say, for the company of those, again, who embody my ideal, who embody those things that I clearly feel very far away from, but by being in the company of those people, I no longer feel that I'm that far away from those things, because the very company of those people getting closer to me makes me feel closer to that ideal, because those people embody the ideal. And that verse says, Kriyatam yadi kutopi labhyate. It doesn't matter from where that's coming from. In other words, if you're really greedy for something, you won't care for, oh, this person coming from this institution, is this person affiliated with this particular line, this person, if you are greedy, you are greedy, right? If you are thirsty, if you are dying, starving for water or eat food, you won't be asking like, is that organic tomato? Which spice have you put into the masala? I mean, you are greedy, right? So you will take it, not without discrimination. That's not the point. But greediness makes you overlook relative details and be focused in the essence. So that's what I will say. Again, in the beginning, I myself included, I was living in a particular temple in Buenos Aires. I came with all my naivety there in my luggage, and I thought, well, I will be here forever. Not precisely. After 1 year, the temple closed. We opened another temple. Okay, I will be here in this temple forever with this community forever. I've been there for 10 years. Then going to another place, members in the community back and forth. Then guru, leaving the service. Anyhow, so many. But in the context of all that, you meet people that even throughout those changes, at least I'm speaking for my journey, remain your friends, remain your sangha, remain your peers, remain your kindred spirits. And that's how you form your circle of intimacy. Like Rupa Goswami says, sadhu sangha has to have these three qualities. Snigdasya, swajatiya, swatavara. Snigdasya means it has to be affectionate. There has to be affection as the common currency in the exchange, in the relationships. There has to be a real loving, caring concern for each other. We may not find that everywhere, so we may not. I don't want to say we may be picky about it, but we are in need of that. So we will exercise our discernment to find a place where we can love and can be loved in a healthy way. So snigdasya, Swajati. Yeah? Swajati means like-minded. No? Not everyone is like-minded. Doesn't mean they are better, they are worse, they are evil, they are nanny, this or that. Maybe just they have a different nature, different mood, a different way of practicing, different way of thinking. I mean, you find, I think we all can find that in the Gaudiya tradition very easily. The diversity of that in any other tradition, that's not a problem. No? For me, it's a problem when some practitioners try to be reductionistic and make everyone feel and think the same way, and everyone has to fit into this same box. And I've seen that a lot. So there is no division, but that's not necessarily division. It's just a natural diversity expressing itself that makes the whole thing grow and expand naturally. So we need to find our place in that like-mindedness, with whom I feel at home, with whom I feel comfortable, with whom I can be myself fully, with whom I don't feel like I'm being judged, with whom I don't feel that I have to fit in, but actually that I belong. With whom do I feel that I can speak about anything and everything in a very open, dynamic, enriching way? At least those will be the questions I will be asking to myself in terms of selecting my close companions, so to say. And then Svatavara, in connection to this, nurturing. Svatavara means looking for a company that is more advanced than us. Of course, that's always very desirable. But also, I will say, looking companies that even if they are not officially more advanced, maybe they are peers, maybe they are even juniors, if there is enough honesty and authenticity in the relationship, something higher than all the parts involved will flow in the midst of that conversation. Even if the two guys talking, one is a Madhyam Bhakta and other is a Kanishta Bhakta, to give an example, if both of them are sincerely connecting and openly, some uttam current of revelation may come because of the authenticity of that sadhu sangha. So that's basically what we have, how it has been described, what's the type of company that will really nourish us. And then again, it doesn't have to be limited to this group, to this guru, to this line. That's what I will say. That's what the scriptures say. I try to show that that's said by Rupa Goswami. You cannot get more Gaudiya than that. And then be creative. Of course, due to maybe some life circumstances, I may not be able to be physically in a place where I have a congregation of like-minded spirits. That happens to many. Okay, thank God for Zoom. Thank God for technology. Thank God for our weekly satsang. I'm not saying this is the solution to everything, but I'm saying this can facilitate, at least for some of us, that experience of like-minded association. And that's sangha. No, it doesn't, as I always say, sangha doesn't need to be a massive community, very big community. In fact, the bigger it gets, the less intimacy you may be able to share with people. If your circle of intimacy is 3,000 people, I may wonder what type of intimacy is that. How can you keep intimacy with so many? So it may be one person. That's more than enough. Like Narottam Das Thakur is singing in some of his songs about how much he longs for the association with Ramachandra Kaviraj. I'm not saying that was his only friend, and Ramachandra Kaviraj was a peer of Narottam Das. And in one of his songs, imagine how important it was for him. He's writing a whole song about Mahaprabhu, Advaita, Nityananda, all these great personalities, the divine itself. And at the end says, and Narottam Das is longing for the association of Ramachandra Kaviraj. We cannot sing those lines casually. You have to stop and think, wow, how much must he be longing for that particular company of a friend, of a peer, that he cannot contain himself, but adding that line at the end, which even may seem like out of place with the rest of the song, but it's kind of like, Jai Mahaprabhu, Jai Advaita, Jai Nityananda, and I long so desperately for the company of my friend Ramachandra Kaviraj. Please. It's beautiful, right? And he's not mentioning like an endless list of thousands. He's speaking about one person so intensely he's longing for that he even includes it in his song. So that may be our community, that may be our tribe. If we can find one of such people, or what to speak, if we can have more than one, that's a blessing. So yeah, let's not lose hope. I will say, let's not fall into despair, thinking I'm bereft of association. Krishna's chastising me. Who knows which ideas we may entertain in our mind. I must have done something wrong, or there's a universal conspiracy against me. Nothing like that. As much as we can do, of course, from our part, initiative to pursue proper company, that there's a part that we have to play in that. But if beyond that, there are some situations which are not as ideal as we will have liked, we then need to be resourceful, creative, and deeply longing for that Sangha. And if that's genuine, somehow or other, that desire will be fulfilled and everything will be facilitated. Again, maybe not in the ways we were thinking. So that's why it's important for us not to be too attached to how it will look. Because many times we lose so many beautiful opportunities and experiences because we in advance have concluded how this should look. And because it never looks like that. We're always missing that. But if we are open to the answer to our prayers in whatever way we actually need that to be manifest, I'm sure we will be surprised to how many opportunities for actual sadhu sangha we'll be receiving. There are more than the ones we can keep up with if we are sincerely longing for. There's no scarcity of that. Again, though it's something unique and valuable, we shouldn't think that's running extinct or something. No, we shouldn't enter into a mindset of scarcity. No, we are talking about love. We are talking about grace. Grace is very resourceful. Okay, grace is very resourceful. So if we pray for this thing, which is the most valuable thing we can pray for, how much the sweet absolute will make arrangements as much as possible for us to receive that which is the most valuable, even for the divine. Sadhu Sangha. The main aspect of bhakti, as Chaitanya Charitamrita says, right? Krishna-bhakti, janma mul hoy sadhu sangha, Krishna prem janmatenha punyal mukhya anga. Sadhu Sangha is the root cause for bhakti to be born. And then when you attain Krishna Prem, Sadhu Sangha remains the main expression of bhakti. So important, so nourishing, so necessary for all of us. So it's there, it's available. And Sadhu Sangha is the department through which grace and love extends. Again, the embodiments of devotion for us to contact with and to have a glimpse at our own potential in bhakti. So if we sincerely pray and long for that, it's already there. We just need to, again, be open enough, recalibrate, and recognize, know again. Respect, look anew. Yeah. I hope that helps, Pakarni. You tell me.
Yeah, thank you. I think, yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we can go to the breakout rooms for a few moments before addressing Elijah's question, which so far it seems to be the last one for today. But before that, again, a few minutes, hoping we can share whatever has been churning in our hearts in terms of this particular topic, Sadhu Sangha, what Sadhu Sangha, how we find it, how to look for it, how to honor it, whatever you may like to reflect together in that regard. So the rooms are open, and we'll see each other in a few minutes back. Welcome back. Welcome you all. Hoping you have good, nourishing time together. And we have one more raised digital hand from Elijah. So we'll invite him to unmute himself, and after that, this will be our last sharing for today, I think. So welcome, Elijah.
Hare Krishna. Thank you always for your time. My question was kind of about the origin of the movement in India. And obviously Chaitanya appeared as Patita Pavana, like the liberator of the most fallen. But why did it have to be in India, like in particular? Because obviously it's like limiting him, like limiting the Lord to one country. Because I feel like it might be subjective, but I feel like in the West, we're more fallen. So I feel like why wouldn't Chaitanya appear in the West? And so the question was kind of about like why did he limit himself to India? I mean, obviously the Lord is omnipresent, so the message eventually got spread when Srila Prabhupada came over and like globalization. But I don't understand why like for many years it wasn't accessible for the West, if that makes sense. Yeah, that's kind of the question.
Okay. Thanks so much. That's kind of a perennial question, right? Because of course I've heard similar type of questions in connection to Christianity, not so much from the side of why Jesus was born in Palestine basically, and not in Mexico, or to say, but maybe the question is, well, if Jesus came to give that particular type of mercy and love and save everyone, so what happened before he was born, right? That means that there was no grace available, and only after him coming. So of course different theologians in the tradition have thought well to explore this, and of course give proper replies that of course never limit God's grace to one appearance at one time or in one place, for that matter, time, place, circumstance. That shouldn't be the main focus on our thing. Though I understand your question, why India? Of course, if he will have appear in Brazil, the Indians may ask why Brazil, or whatever, right? We can always like ask why there and not here, and why here not there. But at the end of the day, for me, it's not so much where that person appeared, but which is not only was, which is the scope of their gift. Because Mahaprabhu did not appear in India for Indians only, no? Or Jesus did not appear in Palestine for Palestinians only, or whomever, right? Whomever we would like to think about an avatar, or Shakti avatar, a teacher, God himself. Srimad Bhagavatam says the avatars of God, of Bhagavan, are asankhya, which means uncountable. So we may know a few, but it doesn't mean God's appearance on earth are limited to the ones we know, or to the ones that appeared in India, for that matter. In fact, there are a few theories about how some of the avatars we may know from the Dash avatar may have appeared in other parts of the planet, which, by the way, again, we can say India, but what's India at the same time is something that humans have created with drawing lines in between countries. So this is called India, this other place called this. Even thousands and more than thousands, millions of years ago, we have this thing called Pangea, which is all the continents were just one big mass of land. So we could not even talk about in terms of continents, what to speak in terms of countries. So for me, that's the idea. When God appears, it's not appearing so much with a how to say, with a national purpose in mind, that I'm descending to deliver only the Indians or only the people of this continent, only this. Because again, the divine is coming from the divine's perspective. The divine's eyes is always all-encompassing, and including everyone. No? So as you mentioned, someone like Srila Prabhupada, among other great personalities, are different messengers that help us understand, okay, this is broader than India. And I personally wouldn't make the case for, well, by the fallen ones are here in the West, not in India. Don't be so sure about that. Fallen people are everywhere, right? And wise people are everywhere, for that matter as well. I wouldn't make that type of division about, okay, in the East are all the sages and in the West are all the malechas or whatever, or uncivilized tribal guys. You have wild stuff going on everywhere, and wise stuff going on everywhere. So for me, yeah, I wouldn't. Of course, he appeared in India, but for me, it doesn't make any difference if he will have appeared in Argentina or in US and in Mexico. It doesn't change the nature of what it brought, in this case, Mahaprabhu to come. Which, of course, we all know which were the reasons for him to come. And again, in one sense, were very personal reasons, internal reasons, but in connection that were very universal reasons. So he had to appear somewhere. It happened to be India, but that doesn't make India better, though I know that many people may have a little bit of that tendency to think all things Indian are superior, or India is the best of all civilizations. And of course, I'm not denying the weight and the richness of India, even if you try to compare, but at the same time, I wouldn't go to the point of making like a case for absolutizing all things Indian and trying like to, because some people think like that, okay, next lifetime, hopefully you're born in India. So you have a better chance. And or I remember 2 years ago, I was in Jagannath Puri trying to enter one temple, not the Jagannath Puri temple, another one. And the person in the door said, only Indians, next lifetime, he told me. I just chuckled, of course. I had two options, chuckle or starting a fight. So I chuckled. It was like so funny, right? So that's what happens. Now, some people in India will think, oh, next time you need to be born in India. That's the best thing. But some people somewhere else may think the opposite. Oh, hopefully those guys in India, in the next lifetime, they are born in Switzerland or they are born in the US. So at the end of the day, that's only our human projection and ego extended. But again, for me, the main point here is not so much where Mahaprabhu was born, but which was the intention and the scope and the reach of his gift. And again, we are all here, most of us not from India, having been sprinkled, so to say, by a few drops of that ocean and being transformed in many ways. So that proves that gift was of a universal nature. It was not limited to Indians, because if not, what we are doing here, right? So the fact that we can be here and meeting here every single weekend for years already, and not feeling like we are going crazy because we are not Indians and we are not getting anything from this, that means it has nothing to do with India. So yeah, he happened to have been born in India, but if he would have been born anywhere else, Australia, New Zealand, New Guinea, whatever, for me, that doesn't change at all who Mahaprabhu was, the extent of his gift, the reach of his gift. So I think that's invitation for us, no, to go beyond the details of geography, to not get too stuck on one particular country or the other, and to see their gift was meant to be spread everywhere. No, like again, I was talking about Jesus, not to make a full comparison, but that's an interesting example, because most people will speak about Christianity. I'm now in Italy, which is a pretty Christian country, as you may know. I mean, Catholic, Vatican, Pope. But Jesus was born in Palestine, right? So you could say technically, many people will relate to Christianity as a Western tradition. But Christianity is Eastern, technically speaking, if you want to think in terms of where Jesus was born. So, but it was somehow embraced and integrated into the culture of many places to the point that they feel it's natural. Of course, we are doing the same thing in our own way, just with a few years, starting just a few decades ago in the West mostly. So it takes time. But that's the thing. So, and I don't feel most of the Christians are like, why Jesus was born in the East and not in the West. They feel their gift, his gift, is totally for all of us, and that's more than enough. Maybe the main question, as I told you, is, well, what happened before he came? How to understand the universal presence of the Christ in everything of creation And that's how they start to explain it. So we will say something like that with Mahaprabhu, not only in terms of where he was born, but even in terms of time. It's not like, okay, those who died one day before Mahaprabhu was born, just miss it. Sorry for you guys. No? I mean, the grace of the divine is omnipresent. These avatars, despite coming on earth, they exist eternally. Each avatar has their own eternal abode. So there's always somehow or other, if one wants, the possibility of contacting all these forms, whether they are descending on earth or not. So there is a universality to all of it. We are generally the ones who hyper-localize everything in terms of time, place, circumstance. But yeah, that's not the spirit of Mahaprabhu's movement. So I will try to respond by that, not trying to do away with the question, why India? But also trying to unpack it in a way that at the end of the day, we can always still ask why India or why anything, right? Because if it won't, as I say, if it won't be India, okay, why Brazil? Why 1486? Why in a Brahmin family? Why we can ask why to anything and everything, but there's a point that we need to understand that despite all those whys and all the becauses, the gift, in this case, the gift of Sri Chaitanya remains fully available, indiscriminately open and distributed to everyone, fully deep, fully broad, fully beautiful. So at the end of the day, the question is, for me at least, what I'm doing about it, what I'm doing with it, how I'm honoring, how I'm serving it. Because also, and I'm not telling this is your case, Elijah, but I'm saying sometimes we can get entangled into too many why questions, and we may lose sight of the practical response, embodied response on a daily basis to what keeps coming, right? Does it make any sense? Some sense? You tell me.
Yeah, thank you. I definitely appreciate like the Lord transcends like many borders. I was just, I guess, curious about why the big delay coming to the West. But I think you kind of answered it with like that it takes a while for cultures to like incorporate it into their lifestyle. So thank you.
Yeah, and something that comes to my mind is also, yeah, I mean, there of course there's an element of mystery, no, right? We cannot just respond to every why question with absolute certainty, like why it took till 1965 for Prabhupada to and whatnot. I mean, yeah, there were different circumstances as well. I mean, it's not there were not attempts before. Let me just share two things. Of course, before Prabhupada went to the US, for example, a few other disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur went to the West in the direction of Europe. Bhakti Hridaya Bon Maharaj, Bhakti Saranga Goswami Maharaj, and a few others. And again, sometimes it is said they were not successful, which I personally do not agree with. No? Or they say, they didn't make anything, like in a quite insulting way, I would say. But I would say no, they went to Europe at the time of World War. I mean, that was not a favorable environment. So sometimes you need some of these socio-political dynamics also for certain movements to spread. Again, Christianity was mainly spread because it became the religion of the empire. Because Emperor Constantine became Christian, and from there it started the widespread of Christianity. To be honest, and this is not to downplay Christianity in any way, but in terms of socio-political influences, if Emperor Constantine wouldn't have become a Christian, I would have become a Gaudiya Vaishnava, let's put it that way, just hypothetically. Probably nowadays we will have not 2 billion Christians, but 2 billion Gaudiya Vaishnavas. I will have the number of Gaudiya Vaishnavas being Christians. And again, that doesn't speak which tradition is better. It's not about the numbers, but sometimes socio-political dynamics play an influence, play a role. So for me, the campaign of someone like Bhakti Hridaya Bon Maharaj and others, even if they had a few disciples initiated and a few temples open, in the midst of such a complex time and environment like World War, and that was a success. To give an example, one of the disciples was Sadhananda Swami from Germany. I'm familiar friend with his followers, and he realized his spiritual identity during his lifetime. So he attained success, the goal of life. So therefore, I will say the mission of Bhakti-Hridaya Maharaj and his friends was a success because the pure devotee came from that. Prabhupada say that, right? Only one pure devotee comes. This is a success. We tend to measure success more with numbers and people initiated and big stuff going on, and we lose sight of what's going on inside. So that's on one side. And also something interesting besides the geography and also the timing, I mentioned that briefly, that, for example, Mahaprabhu, he appeared in 1486. And someone may ask, but why not before? Was he available before? And I'm trying to recall his name. This is a famous saint from Switzerland. Maybe some of you, maybe Kanupriya knows. Krishna Chandra may have told you about it. He told me about him. This is a saint. Well, I don't know if the main saint in Switzerland or famous saint in Switzerland. I think it's Nicholas or something, but I may be mistaken. Who had a Kanupriya, sorry?
Nicholas von der Flü.
Okay, there was a Nicholas there. Thank you. So he's the one who had darshan of Mahaprabhu, right? Are we talking about that person? So he had a vision of Mahaprabhu before Mahaprabhu appeared on earth. And this is documented in a few books. I was the other day in the Netherlands where I met with one devotee, Lila Avatar, that he was connected today. Maybe he had to leave. Actually, he would have been a good reference because he came with a book by Armin Rishi Prabhu, and he showed me a particular chapter and he started to talk to me about him. So again, here you have a Swiss mystic, Swiss Christian mystic, born before Mahaprabhu's time, having a vision of Sri Chaitanya. So again, that doesn't make sense to our geography, to our chronology, right? But again, then we realize that these things doesn't need to obey those laws. Now, if there is a particular deep connection, these realities which are eternal will manifest accordingly one way or another. So again, and I'm not saying this like to make a case like Christians have darshan of Mahaprabhu and we are converting them. I'm not saying that at all for that. I'm just making a point of someone from a time where Mahaprabhu was not born, who didn't know about Sri Chaitanya, had a particular vision and darshan that corresponds with Mahaprabhu. So just to make the point of, it's not that he was entirely unavailable before his coming to earth. So in the same way, as I give this example to Mahaprabhu, we can extend that same example to any other form of the sweet absolute and their agents, which again, due to their unconditional love and grace, they can extend their presence in ways we cannot imagine. They can imagine. They had a pretty good imagination, and hopefully we can broaden ours to start gradually to conceive more and more with otherwise may feel inconceivable. So anyhow, a few footnotes that came to my mind in connection to what you said. Thank you, Elijah. And let's go one more time, since there are no more raised hands. We can put to rest our sharing with one more breakout rooms where you can share a little bit about any thoughts or reflections about what we just shared in terms of different forms of the divine appear in different times and places, and how to continue honoring and internalizing these beautiful realities. So I'm opening the breakout rooms now. There they are, and see you back in a few minutes. Okay, welcome back you all. Hoping you had a good time together, a good time with yourself, or those who needed some personal introspection. And all my affection here from Laverna. Blessings for us here. Tomorrow, day after tomorrow, we are starting our retreat here, trying to navigate together the lives of St. Francis of Assisi. We are the place where he received his stigmata, his wound of love, the seal of approval. So we'll be trying to reflect about wounding, sacred wounding, the life of St. Francis, the life of Mahaprabhu, the parallels between that. I'll try to record the morning sharings, and we'll be putting them in the English YouTube channel for you to somehow, those who cannot make it in 3D, to participate somehow or other from 2D somehow, right? So hopefully you can be part in one way or another, and looking forward to see you next weekend, same time, same channel, ever new, ever farts. Shriman Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanand Hari Hari Bol.